Welcome to another edition of Go-to-Market Fridays. Thank you for investing your time today. We've got a great guest joining us early morning from California, who's the founder and CEO of MarketingOps.com, a community-led organization really focused on the marketing operations profession. I can't wait to dig in. Before I do, just a reminder here as people kind of filter into the room, in the upper corner here, you'll see a QR code. That QR code brings you to 300 plus videos of go-to-market best practices, from AI to marketing operations to revenue operations, all sorts of guests that my co-host Meg and I have had over the last 4 years. If you have a specific question, we can certainly address that. And I do want to acknowledge my co-host Meg, who's been here for 3+ years. She was the former head of research at Serious Decisions, has had some CMO stints, and now out on her own doing advisory work from a CMO perspective. So we've been hosting about 300 plus of these. If you have questions, let us know. And also today's session, if you have questions, you have the ability in LinkedIn to ask Mike questions directly, or if you have questions with one of us, feel free to pop this in. This conversation is as much yours as it is ours. So with that, maybe Mike, for starters, maybe you could share maybe just a baseline, like what's the definition that you see of marketing ops, and how do you relate it to other parts of the organization that might have operations like a RevOps or customer ops?
Yeah. Oh, good question. We're jumping straight in, which is my favorite thing. No, I thank you both for having me on. It's an honor to be talking to both of you, and for those of you watching now or later, I hope that you continue to subscribe and pay attention to what these folks are saying and what their guests are sharing, because this is like one of the easiest ways to learn, right? If getting out of the weeds of your day to day, I think this is just an incredible platform. So thanks again for having me on. In terms of the definition of marketing operations, that has been one of the hardest questions to answer for people for so long. We joke in the community about saying like I'm IT for marketing was like the original way that we would try to like spin it to people. And then, even then they'd be like, so you fix computers, or like, that's certainly not the right answer. Today, MarketingOps.com as a tech agnostic community of professionals is on a very focused path to creating a certification program. And what that's really around is this idea that marketing operations, at least to me and a number of our sort of like board members that we've pulled together for this certification, all from the community, folks just like you, they think of it as more like a product management function. And I can certainly unpack that, but my argument to sort of the world is that as a marketing operations professional, you are managing multiple products, and those products have capabilities. Those capabilities are akin to features. And just like any other product manager that is building a SaaS product, you need to understand the needs of your users. And in your case, your users usually span at least a minimum of 3 groups: internal stakeholders, the customers that are buying your products and services of the company you work for or consult, and then the brand itself, to make sure it's legal and compliant and getting the right exposure. And so really your job is to figure out how to stitch together all of those capabilities on let's call it a roadmap of features, and deploy them to enable a smooth customer buying experience. And so that's what we're working on, is really defining marketing operations as strategic go-to-market product managers or architects. The name of that certification is still a little TBD, but yeah, that's a mouthful. I'm sorry if I just overloaded everybody.
No, it's a great definition, and I think also an updated definition that's kind of more reflective of the role that marketing ops needs to play now, given the complexity of all of the things that an operations person needs to be able to do. I think product management is appropriately complex itself. So with that in mind, thinking about how marketing operations sort of fits into the operations world, you've got business operations, RevOps, sales ops, marketing ops. How do you see companies sort of making sense of the different operational functions, and anything you're seeing in terms of how they tend to be organized or structured and within kind of the org chart?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I'm obviously not in the weeds at any organization today as often as I once was, but the conversations around the community continue to surface, and so I think unfortunately, I think is probably the only word I can use. The sort of RevOps umbrella is still largely pulled from a sales ops background. It tends to focus very heavily on the sort of sales side of the house, territory planning, and all of these kinds of things. Managing the book of business and so forth. And I think we all still aspire to have an umbrella that tries to align each of these operational functions. And I think that is absolutely the right approach, whether you decide to call that RevOps or go-to-market ops or whatever it is. I really don't, I don't particularly care what you want to call it, just as long as you have somebody who's there acting as a translation layer between your business's sort of unique hypothesis. And by that, I mean, how do you go to market as an organization, right? You've made a bet. Maybe it's outbound, maybe it's paid ads, maybe it's a mix of a number of different things. And how do you take that unique hypothesis and translate that to the capabilities and the art of the possible with technology across the different, organizational units and their unique needs, right? And you need someone sitting there acting as that translation layer. And so I'm seeing still organizations try to rally around the RevOps category. I think that's here to stay. I think MOPs is here to stay. Sales and CS and BizOps, I think they're all here to stay. We just ran a town hall in our community yesterday talking a bit about how AI is impacting marketing operations and all these things. And we talk about how just how important it is for you to understand sort of the language of the business and how to scale in your career in that way. But then again, sort of translate that back to the technology. But the reality is that there's still like that's very aspirational in terms of I want to be a leader, right? I want to be able to step into a role that has a seat at the table, which everybody's really been struggling, I would say, fighting the good fight for in MOPS for quite some time. But the reality is that there's a lot of amazing value you can bring to an organization without having to put pressure on yourself to aspire to get that seat at the table. You can actually be a really deep practitioner that knows how to use agents really well, or knows how to use Marketo really well, or whatever it is. And as long as you know how to ask the right questions and align to somebody who's decided they want to keep going into that direction, you're fine. And so it's just my way of saying, like, this isn't like, oh yeah, campaign operations is going to go away because of X. That's not true at all. There's actually a very critical need for those deep functions to exist, and then still a path now to head into something that's a bit more strategic and a bit more architectural in nature. Sorry, I keep rambling.
All good stuff. And you mentioned a number of things that kind of triggered some thoughts around, your go-to-market or your town hall yesterday, and kind of talking about the seat at the table. And, thinking about my own experiences recently with marketing operations with AI, it's a different world now. On one hand, you've got kind of the enthusiasm for all these new tools and all these new capabilities. And then on the other hand, it seems like, you've got the undercurrent of what didn't exist maybe 10, 20 years ago, which is the technical debt and kind of the frustration of leaders that are not really clear as to how you're going to get from point A to point B with technical debt. But I'm curious, how does that compare to kind of what you're hearing? And, what other issues are you hearing right now in the marketing operations function that are either helpful or potentially blockers to progress in this AI world?
Yeah. I think if there was a nail and a hammer, you just like really hit it on the head with the comment of leadership rather having a desire to leverage the latest and greatest in terms of AI. We do an annual research report called the State of the MoPro, and we ask often about like skills and sort of where you're making investments in the market and all these things. And what was really interesting in the data, I was hoping I could pull it up and share it with the audience, but it's just not accessible to me right now. The report will come out in October, but what was interesting about the insights from this year is sort of between the lines, you're seeing this request from leadership saying, we want to go leverage AI. And then at the same time, the practitioners are saying, I don't have the sort of the resources, like people, the time, myself, nor the skills yet to be able to go do that. But at the same time, I have no idea what you want, right? And so for our practitioners, the marketing ops practitioners, whether you're sort of junior or senior in your role, that's a huge opportunity. It's not a big mountain to climb. It's a really big opportunity in front of you to guide your organization and what are the capabilities of leveraging some of the latest AI and agentic solutions. And then for the leaders who are asking for all of these things, there's a new era in front of us. And the thing is like, sorry, you can stop me at any time if you want, but one of the things that you commented on is this idea of technical debt. This movie has been played before, right? Like we folks who have been around the MarTech explosion, we've seen this play out. And what happened was everybody bought these tools, and marketing operations professionals sort of came to fruition to go say, oh, like you need somebody to make this thing work. And unfortunately, a lot of organizations decided to lay off all the people who've seen the movie before, and now we're like watching them make very similar mistakes all over again. And so my advice to organizations and leadership is like, go find the folks that have seen the movie, and let's slow down and speed up again, because this new era is about understanding the product that you're building. And I don't mean that in like the go-to-market tech stack product that I was talking about before. You are fundamentally challenged by the new pricing model and structure of AI to slow down and think about, well, where do I actually want to make a bet here? Because they are incentivized to get you to use every credit as frequently and as fast as possible from their consumption-based pricing model. And your job is to go, well, I need it to trigger at point A or point Z. And that requires a lot of architectural thinking and a stake that you have to put in the ground. And it's going to be a totally new buying cycle, a totally new process. The CFO has to go, wait, how do I understand the budget constraints of this? It's not one subscription for a big platform. And your job is to figure out how to make that happen. And so it's just this like really exciting time to say, let's not create more technical debt, to tie it back to what we were just talking about a moment ago, and make all these investments and let all these silos happen, because unfortunately acquiring AI solutions is pretty easy right now. Like you can sign up for Clay with a credit card and start doing stuff. That's a problem. And someone needs to stop that from happening. So yeah, that's my thought on technical debt leadership and the gaps that we're seeing right now.
Well, given, all of those kind of changes, and you mentioned, certification at the beginning of the call, what are some of the changing skills you think that marketing operations professionals need to be either should have or should be building going into next year?
Yeah. For obvious reasons, it's AI capabilities, right? And understanding how how prompting works, how the different models work, and why they're better in certain situations than others. That means taking the time to sit in workshops and go learn from some of the experts that are learning right there along with you. I shouldn't even call them experts right now. Nobody's an expert. But really taking the time to go figure out how these capabilities are being created, and then in some cases, they're going to be added to your tech stack directly, and you'll have to make a decision on when and if you want to invest in those versus something that's a bit more bespoke. The leadership angle will never change, right? Just the sort of like, let's call them soft skills, like the understanding how to create alignment and almost like service level agreements between organizations, get that sort of buy-in. As we endeavor to create a certification program, we want you to be sort of broadly skilled, at least in terms of understanding of the, let's call it the T-shaped marketer, right? That breadth of exposure to all of the different go-to-market practices. I'm sure you'll be deep in one. We want you to go learn what it takes to run a product roadmap or a capabilities roadmap, and understand how to conduct a user research study, right? Just like any other product manager would. We want you to learn a little bit more about object orientation and database structure, because we all know, and I'm sure for those of us that are practitioners and quite technical, it all comes down to data and whether it's clean or not and how AI can leverage it. And then lastly, I would really encourage you, if you do want to keep charting that path to having a conversation with your leadership, learn a little bit about finance. Spend some time understanding what it means to have revenue recognition and cash and accrual. You don't need to be able to balance a balance sheet, and do the books, but you do need to understand some of the financial language, so that you can have a better sense of tying ROI from what you're investing in back to the way that they think about it. That's a lot of different skills, right? But it's a nice, I think, opportunity for you to build a career over an extended period of time and keep developing yourself and find opportunities. And you may find you like one angle better than the other. And then you might just stay really deep in one area. So, yeah.
Yeah, the finance piece is a really interesting one. I mean, the MOPs people have so much on their plate now, and but I don't disagree whatsoever on what you're saying. If you can learn cash flow or net income or read those statements and really understand it, because it ties to your ability to make some of those requests, which actually kind of relates to my next question. Like, in pretending, in this environment now, it's pretty constrained. And I could think of a couple client situations where we've either, I want to say, replaced a headcount, but a headcount was delayed on campaign manager because we found an agent to offload a lot of the routine work. We found another transactional situation where we replaced marketing automation and SDRs with an agent that we trained. None of it was a silver bullet. Like, you have to train these agents up. But I'm curious, going into 2026 and on that CFO theme, how should we be thinking about orgs right now? Are people going to be getting headcount? Are they going to be getting discretionary dollars? I mean, it's hard to have a crystal ball, but if you had to predict right now, like, what do you see happening, or what are you hearing from your community?
Yeah, really good question. This is again, no crystal ball here. It's a really interesting one. Things that I'll pose as like challenges to the whole scenario is, I do think that there will be a little bit of a resurgence in hiring. Obviously, the broader economic situations always impact those decisions, and each industry is a little bit different, right? The tech sector has certainly gone through a big adjustment over the last 3 years. But I do think there will be a bit of a resurgence in hiring, and I think it'll come down to sort of I don't know, we're looking at the credits of the movie that we're all watching, right? It's moving really, really fast. And at some point, just like I articulated earlier, we'll realize, hey, we've seen this before, and we need experts to be able to go run and deploy these technologies. To your point, John, when you were saying, we trained this agent, you needed somebody to sit there and work with it. I think I totally agree. You need those people, those experts, to be able to do that. What's fascinating to me about all of this is at some point, someone will have not done that job ever, right? Like, if we never have someone doing an SDR job or a BDR job ever again, how do you know what good looks like? It's like this self-fulfilling, like, oh, like the AI said it's good, so it must be good. Right? Like, and I think if you haven't done the work, or you don't have anybody to have done the job at some point, you can't have them then be a manager of agents. And I think we need to come back to reality and realize that in order for us to have success in technology, you have to have people who have had the experience. a sort of a different way that I've talked about this with other folks. I was on Casey Cheshire's podcast or blog or whatever it was, and just a handful of weeks ago, and I said, hey, the thing is, like, you look at like Gartner and Forrester and all these big research firms, right? I don't think that there's a world in which they're going to be working with clients, and clients are going to say, yeah, absolutely, you can record this conversation and put it into your big AI machine because I want to learn from all the other people that you consult how they went to market. Yeah, absolutely. Take all my proprietary information and store it in your AI so I can learn from all of them and they can learn from me. Like, that's just not going to happen. I certainly wouldn't want that to happen if I was running an organization, which means that, like, the question is, how do you get around that situation, right? And the answer is people, right? Like, I hire the person who's worked at all these companies because they've seen things. And they can tell you, hey, I can see around a corner that you can't see right now because I've been there. And I can do that in a way without giving you any proprietary information about the companies that I've worked with. And I can guide you down a path. AI has access to public information. Public information doesn't tell you how to go to market. It tells you all the good stuff. It doesn't tell you all the nitty-gritty stuff that you have to watch out for. And so people are really fundamental to the whole equation here. And I think organizations need to realize that they're going to need to hire people again to be able to learn those things, to be able to run the agents, and then still go to market as effectively as they once did, if not more effectively, obviously.
Mike, I think that's a really important point. And you just brought to mind something else. I've been working with companies on reporting and making sure that they're presenting their data in a way that allows both them to say, hey, here's how we contributed to business performance, but also to serve as a diagnostic. And what you just got me thinking about, and I would love your thoughts on this, is when you have reporting on the current state and you don't know what good looks like, you haven't seen it, how are you going to diagnose what's going wrong when something inevitably goes wrong with performance, and what you're doing with those agents that was sensible 3 months ago, but no longer makes sense or is no longer performing? How are you going to diagnose that? How are you going to know what to do?
Yeah, exactly. I was just, I was just having this conversation with a gentleman yesterday who's been more on the B2C side, but comes from sort of the data architecture background and has built a lot of like go-to-market motions around sort of like almost a data lake, data warehouse type of stuff. And it was that exact same sort of thing. In his point was, I don't think we're going to need analytics like people anymore because AI can kind of do this stuff. And I challenged that just a little bit because I was like, well, to your point, if I don't even know what to ask, like I have yet to encounter an AI, and maybe it'll happen, but I have yet to encounter an AI that's like pulling information out of me like a human would to be able to prescribe something back my way. I have to know what to ask it. And I think if we're in a situation where you maybe understand some of the insights that it's providing back to you, but you've never done some of the underlying jobs to go improve or the results, then you really don't know where to go next, right? And perhaps you get to a situation where someone's trained agents to say like, hey, we noticed there's a dip here and you have this other agent that you could bring in. Do you want me to bring him in? And like there's a real possibility that those things could happen. But like, who's building that? and like, this is a whole, again, it's like a whole new era of building product that is very, very bespoke and unique to your organization, right? Like, I don't think you're going to hire some external SaaS agent that you can just deploy into your org that just knows how everything works. Like, you're probably better off just building something yourself. And it's a whole new thing. So I don't know I don't know how to solve that problem if you don't have people. To your question, Meg, like,
yeah, the AI agent's almost like an intern in a way. Like, you have to give it a lot of direction and a lot of coaching, and you can't really run a business off interns.
Yeah, I mean, and you can invest in it, right? That's fine. Right. You can invest. It'll learn faster than any other intern you've probably ever worked with. But you just like, it'll feel very strange from a CEO running an organization and looking at the books constantly, right? Who is, I mean, I am looking at AI in the face every day.
Right.
Like, I can't bring myself yet to stop taking calls like this and having fun, talking shop with people, to stop engaging with our community, to stop doing these other things, to go, all right, how do I get this agent stuff going for my business? It's a complete departure from what people are used to. I need to go to market. I need to talk. I need to be out there. I need to run ad campaigns or whatever it is. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for people to slow down like that. They need to, but it's going to be really, really difficult.
Yeah, or they're going to waste a lot of money in failed experiments.
Exactly. Well, we saw
they can get away with it.
yeah. And we saw, what was it? I mean, it was a little bit skewed, it sounds like, as people unpacked some of the research from, I think it was MIT, that said like AI implementations or transformations, like it was like some crazy high percentage of them just completely failed. And I think that's exactly what's happening. It's kind of circling all the way back to the top of our conversation, right? There's all these people are buying these products and just like, oh yeah, it's magic, right? It's just supposed to work. It's like, nope. Guess what?
Well, and it wasn't true with the MarTech boom the first time around. Right. It won't be true this time around. It's never been true.
Right. I was just
and yet we continue to hope, which I applaud. I love enthusiasm. Sometimes it's the only thing that gets you through, but
people are blissfully ignorant too.
Yeah, it's not going to get you the ROI that your CFO is expecting.
Yeah, 100%.
Well,
what
awesome.
advice would you have? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, kind of, I know we're pretty much at time. I would just love to, get your advice on, if you were going or wanted to get into marketing operations, what would you say are a couple of sort of areas of specialization you'd encourage people to look at that you think are going to be sustainable and employable over the next couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, there's no dismissing that the entry point, I think, just kind of very easily into marketing operations is often in and around the idea of like email marketing. And just like email's not going away, folks. And so if you can kind of get into a role where you're sort of acting as like a campaign operations, email marketer, somebody that can just kind of get in and start plugging away at optimizing some of the environments that your various clients have, or the organization that you want to go work for. I think that's a super powerful entry point. It is going to present a lot more challenges to find those, because there's a really strong chance that people are going to have some sort of agentic workflow that basically can look at a campaign brief on a Google Doc and go build all the assets. And I think if that ends up presenting itself as sort of the norm moving forward, just try to insert yourself into any of the campaign orchestration workflows along the way, because there's still a deep need for human in the loop sort of elements to all of that. So go get certified in products like HubSpot. They're a little easier to interact with on the certification side. And if you can, dabble in other products. The Salesforce ecosystem has a really great learning path too. So I would encourage you to go explore some of those. And then use AI to your advantage. Start talking to it. Ask that very question that Meg just asked. Like, if I wanted to get into marketing operations, what could I try? Treat me like I'm a marketing ops manager. Ask me something, give me some to-dos, and basically run like a mock business. And you might find that you can go learn a few things that way too.
I know we're a minute or two over time. Do you have time for one more question, or do you have to hop? I want to be sensitive to your time.
Unfortunately, I do need to go.
All right.
I actually have to get in the car and drive somewhere, which is which is kind of exciting for me.
There you go. Well, Mike, thanks for getting up. I know it's early there in California, so thank you. This is a great conversation about all things AI and MOPs from definition to kind of the future investment and kind of advice that you would give to people either first getting into the careers or as they progress. So really, really helpful.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. And again, thank you so much for having me on. And for those of you who are interested in learning more about this career path, or you just want to learn with others, we've got 3,500 people in our community at marketingops.com. Would love to have you come hang out, talk shop with us. And then Mopsapalooza is our event at the end of October. If you can make it either in person or online, we would love to have you there. But in any case, either way, just find me around LinkedIn or join me in the community, and I'm here to help and connect you with other people too.
Amazing, Mike. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Meg.
And then next week, we've got Janine Crispino from 6 Sense talking all things customer journey and mapping the customer journey. So if you got value from today, you'll definitely want to listen in next week as 6 Sense talks about how they map their customer journey using a data warehouse. So very steeped in technology, of which marketing operations played a key role. So look forward to speaking next week.
Thanks, everybody. And